Today we're going to talk about the premalignant lesions and conditions of oral cavity. What do you mean by a premalignant lesion? It's a morphologically altered tissue in which cancer is more likely to occur than its normal counterpart. So these include leukoplakia, erythroplakia, etc. What is a premalignant condition? It's a generalized state associated with significantly increased risk of cancer. These include conditions like submucous fibrosis, xeroderma pigmentosa, lichen planus, discoid lupus erythematosus, tertiary syphilis, etc. So these are some of the lesions. They have been classified into the risk based on risk, that is into high risk lesions. We have leukoplakia, erythroplakia, and chronic hyperplastic candidiasis. Medium risk lesions include oral submucous fibrosis, syphilitic glossitis, sideropenic dysphagia. And low risk lesions include oral lichen planus, discoid lupus erythematosus, and discoid keratosis congenita. So these include lesions as well as conditions. And there are still many more conditions. So leukoplakia. It is defined as any white patch in the mucosa of the oral cavity that cannot be categorized clinically or pathologically as any other disease. So the etiology is it includes tobacco chewing and smoking. They are the most important risk factors. Others include mechanical irritation due to dental appliances or sharp tooth, alcohol, poor nutrition, viral agents like the human papillomavirus, and idiopathic causes as well. The types include homogeneous and non-homogeneous type of leukoplakia. Homogeneous is seen as uniform white patches of varying sizes, commonly in the buccal mucosa. It is the most common type. Now, non-homogeneous types include the speckled type. They are characterized by white flecks with fine nodules on an atrophic erythematous base. It has more malignant potential compared to the homogeneous type. Similarly, you have the nodular type. The fine nodules are seen on the surface of the lesion. Now, still there is also the verrucous type, which we will be dealing with later. So the clinical features, it usually presents as a white or grayish well localized patch which is adherent, firm or hard and indurated, often multifocal and bilateral. It occurs in areas like buccal mucosa, tongue and gums, usually painless and non-tender. Ulceration may be seen and is also considered as a sign of increased risk for malignant transformation. The incidence in smokers and pan chewers are much more compared to the incidence in non-smokers. The incidence of turning into malignancies are about 4 to 10%, and it increases with the age and the duration of smoking or pan chewing. Diagnosis is by biopsy and it rules out the malignancy. Usually microscopy reveals acanthosis, parakeratosis and widening of the rete pegs. The treatment is to immediately stop the habit, that is pan chewing or smoking. If there is associated candidiasis, treat that with antifungal treatment. Now for the lesion, surgical excision of the lesion can be done. Alternatively, carbon dioxide laser excision is also effective. Still alternatives include photodynamic therapy, cryotherapy. So here the chance of recurrence is much high, so patient has to be on regular follow-up. Oral vitamin A has also been found to be effective in doses as high as 3 lakh, but on stopping the treatment, the lesion recurs again. Certain isotretinoin is also available. Beta carotene is also found to be effective in the treatment of leukoplakia. A differential diagnosis include all lesions that appear white, so oral aspirin burn, oral pseudomembranous candidiasis, oral hairy leukoplakia, leukoedema, oral lichen planus, oral white sponge nevus, nicotinic stomatitis or smoker's palate, mucus patches or in secondary syphilis. And still there are some more differential diagnoses. These are the relatively common ones. So this is how pseudomembranous and candidiasis looks like. It's a white lesion and that's a white sponge nevus. Now There is something known as the staging of leukoplakia, that is LSCP, LSCNP. L is for the size of the lesion. So a size less than 2 is considered L1, size of 2 to 4 centimeter is L2, size more than 4 centimeter is L3. Similarly, S is the site of the lesion. S1 includes the entire oral mucosa except the floor of the mouth and tongue. S2 includes floor of mouth and tongue. C is the clinical type, that is C1 is homogeneous and C2 is non-homogeneous. P is the pathology, that means LSCP classification is only used after the biopsy. P1 suggests no dysplasia, P2 is mild dysplasia, P3 is moderate dysplasia, and P4 is severe dysplasia. So based on this, we have a staging of stage 1, 2, 3 and 4. Stage 4 means any lesion of any size at any site in the oral cavity and any type, whether it is homogeneous or non-homogeneous, but having moderate to severe dysplasia. So the risk of malignant transformation is much high in stage 4. Now about erythroplakia. It is any lesion of the oral mucosa that presents as a bright red velvety plaque which cannot be categorized clinically or pathologically as any other recognizable lesion. It has more malignant potential than leukoplakia. It's also known as erythroplasia. The commonest site is in the lower alveolar margin and the floor of the mouth. Other sites include the soft palate, gingival-buccal sulcus, tongue and vestibule. Etiology is not known, but alcohol and tobacco chewing are important risk factors. It's more common in males and more common in middle-aged and elderly individuals. It's classified into 3 types. You have the homogeneous type, speckled type, and then you have the erythroplasia interspersed with leukoplakia. Diagnosis again by biopsy. Histology reveals parakeratosis and severe epithelial dysplasia. Here again the treatment is to remove the etiology. If it's a localized lesion, excision of the lesion can be done. Carbon dioxide laser excision or vaporization can be done depending on the site. Electrodesiccation and cryosurgery are also alternatives. Lycopene is also found to be helpful as supplements in the treatment. Differential diagnosis of all red colored lesions include oral candidiasis, oral histoplasmosis, oral tuberculosis, atrophic oral lichen planus, lupus erythematosus, pemphigus, pemphigoid, amelanotic melanoma, hemangioma, telangiectasia, and even Kaposi sarcoma are some of them. The next is a chronic hypoplastic candidiasis. It's usually associated with leukoplakia, hence also called candidial leukoplakia. So it's characterized by dense plaques of leukoplakia with curdy white patches due to the Candida albicans infection. So it's common in the commissures of the mouth and tongue. It has a high malignant potential and is usually associated with immunodeficiency. The treatment is prolonged topical or systemic antifungal treatment. If the lesion still persists, then surgical excision or laser vaporization can be done. Now this is the verrucous leukoplakia or the proliferative verrucous leukoplakia or PVL. It's an aggressive form of leukoplakia. It presents on the oral mucosa as a multifocal white patch or plaque with rough surface projections. It tends to spread slowly and involve other oral mucosal regions. It's more frequently seen on the gingiva. It has a very high risk to undergo malignant transformation. It's more common in elderly women, and the difference from our other leukoplakia lesions is that it is not associated with tobacco use. So this is how it looks like. It's on the gingival area. Actinic chelosis. It's a pre-malignant condition which frequently involves the lower lip. It presents as a diffuse, poorly defined, atrophic, erosive, ulcerative or keratotic plaque. Other signs include dryness, scaly patches, swelling, fissures, crusting and blotching. It has a strong likelihood of progressing to a malignancy. It is one of the main causes of lip cancer. Treatment includes surgical excision, vermilionectomy, cryotherapy, electrosurgery, topical retinoids, topical 5-fluorouracil cream, photodynamic therapy, carbon dioxide laser surgery, etc. Now, oral submucous fibrosis, it's a progressive disease in which fibrous bands form beneath the oral mucosa. Scarring will produce contractures which will result in restriction in mouth opening and restriction in tongue movements. Usually confined to the Southeast or Asian population. This is more common in young adults, especially 20 to 40 age group. The most frequent sites are the oral cavity are the buccal mucosa, retromolar area, tongue and soft palate. The etiology: prolonged local irritation by pan masala, arecanut, chilies, tobacco have been the cause. Autoimmune etiology and genetic factors have been also been considered. The pathology that is characterized pathologically by epithelial fibrosis with associated atrophy and hyperplasia of the overlying epithelium. Clinical features include: you can palpate the fibrotic bands in the retromolar area, buccal mucosa, and the commissural areas and gingiva. Initial red area turns into superficial ulcers, which later form the fibrotic bands and scarring. The tongue appears smooth and has restricted mobility. There is difficulty in protruding the tongue. Trismus is present later on. The person complains of burning sensation, which is aggravated by hot, spicy, and chilly food. He may have hyposalivation as well as hypersalivation. There may be a blanching or marble-like appearance. Other signs include, or features include, soreness and burning in the mouth, which is more during meals. Presence of vesicular eruptions or pigmentations, usually after taking spicy food. It can be associated with hearing loss due to stenosis of the eustachian tube. It can have a nasal tone to the voice. There can be dysphagia to solids if the esophagus is also involved by submucous fibrosis. Oral submucous fibrosis does not regress like leukoplakia even after cessation of the habit. There is a risk for malignant transformation which increases, especially if it coexists with leukoplakia. So treatment still involves cessation of the habit, maintaining a good oral hygiene. Intralesional steroids such as dexamethasone can be tried. Alternatively, surgical excision with cover of the raw area with skin graft or flap cover is the preferred method. Syphilitic glossitis, it's a rare condition. A gamma is a characteristic lesion of tertiary syphilis. The condition is rare now. The tongue gets involved by multiple diffuse gammatas which can appear, and the tongue appears large, lobulated and irregular shaped. This is known as interstitial glossitis. Similarly, there can be diffuse atrophy and loss of papillae, which is known as lutic glossitis. So there is an increased risk of oral squamous cell carcinoma in the case of tertiary syphilis or syphilitic glossitis. Sideropenic dysphagia, it's also known as Plummer-Vinson syndrome or Patterson-Kelly syndrome. It's a rare disease. It's seen in some Scandinavian women. It's characterized by dysphagia, iron deficiency anemia, and esophageal webs. So there is epithelial atrophy which renders the oral mucosa vulnerable to irritation from topical carcinogens. So there's an increased risk of squamous cell carcinoma of the esophagus and pharynx. Treatment is correction with iron supplements, and then mechanical widening of the esophagus can be done for esophageal webs or for the dysphagia. Oral lichen planus. So it's a dermatological condition. It's a chronic. So lichen planus is a chronic autoimmune inflammatory disease which may affect skin, oral mucosa, genital mucosa, scalp and nails. Oral lichen planus mainly affects the mucosal surface is characterized by pearly white papules and striae. Etiology is not clear, but it is found to be seen in smokers or tobacco chewers. Factors include autoimmune etiology, viral agents like Epstein-Barr virus, herpes simplex virus, human papillomavirus, immunodeficiency, certain drugs like NSAIDs and anti-malarial drugs. can affect any part of the oral mucosa, but the most common sites are the buccal mucosa, dorsum of the tongue, and gingiva. So, diagnostic criteria include the presence of Wickham's striae, is a reticular arrangement of whitish striae and papules. Microscopy shows liquefactive degeneration of basal bodies, presence of civet bodies, and the presence of homogeneous infiltrative lymphocytes in the superficial dermis. It's classified into several subtypes. You have the reticular type, it's the most common type. There is crisscrossing, lacy, white striae. You have the plaque-like, which is similar to leukoplakia because of its homogeneous white nature. You have the erosive type, which is usually seen as an irregular erosion or ulceration, covered with a fibrinous plaque or pseudomembrane annular striae in circular or linear fashion. The papilla type and bullous type are less common. Papilla is characterized by small white raised papules with fine white striations at the periphery. The bullous type is the least common. There are multiple bullae from few millimeters to a few centimeters. The atrophic type presents as a red lesion. Treatment is mainly topical steroids. Triamcinolone, fluticasone, propionate can be tried. Alternatively, topical tacrolimus and retinoids have been tried. The discoid keratosis congenita is also known as Zinsser-Engman-Kohl syndrome. It's a rare condition, it's a progressive syndrome. It is characterized by a triad of reticulated skin hyperpigmentation, nail dystrophies, and oral leukoplakia. DKC or discoid keratosis congenita is genetically heterogeneous, so it can be X-linked recessive, autosomal dominant, and autosomal recessive. The mucocutaneous features of dyskeratosis congenita typically develop between the ages of 5 to 10 years. Mucosal leukoplakia is seen in 80% of the individuals and usually affects the buccal mucosa, tongue, and oropharynx. Bone marrow failure is seen in 90% patients. So here death usually occurs by infection or bleeding because of bone marrow failure, or else it will be due to malignancy because of its increased risk of malignancy. So patient has an increased prevalence of malignant mucosal neoplasms like squamous cell carcinoma of the mouth, nasopharynx, esophagus, rectum, vagina, cervix. Similarly, Hodgkin's lymphoma, adenocarcinoma of the GIT, bronchial carcinoma, laryngeal carcinoma have also been seen in such individuals. Now, DLE or discoid lupus erythematosus, it's also a chronic scarring immunological mucocutaneous disease. It's characterized by white keratinized plaques with elevated borders, radiating white striae, and telangiectasia. The malignant transformation of DLE is into squamous cell carcinoma. It's usually observed on the lesions in the lower lip. Topical or systemic corticosteroids are usually recommended for the management of discoid lupus erythematosus. Some other lesions are there which have been presumed to be precancerous or pre-malignant. We have the pre-leukoplakia. It's a low-grade mild reaction which appears whitish grey. It's also had studies suggesting of 0.4 to 0.4% transformation into malignancy. Leukoedema, it's a chronic mucosal condition where the appearance is grey, opaque in color, but on stretching it disappears. Usually regresses by itself. Smoker's palate or nicotine stomatitis is also a pre-malignant condition. Palatal erythema is a differential diagnosis to erythroplakia. Tobacco lime users lesion, there is also a whitish with yellowish area. Betel quid stain. So these are other few lesions which also have been predicted to result in pre-malignant, are also considered to be pre-malignant by a few schools of thought. So now this is a list of other and including these pre-malignant lesions and pre-malignant conditions. So leukoplakia, erythroplakia, proliferative verrucous leukoplakia, candida leukoplakia or hyperplastic candidiasis, smoker's palate, verrucous hyperplasia, oral verrucous carcinoma, DKC, AC, keratoacanthoma, OSMF. Pre-malignant conditions include lichen planus, DLE, verruciform xanthoma, cheilitis glandularis, xeroderma pigmentosa, tertiary syphilis, Plummer-Vinson syndrome, vitamin A, B, C deficiency, malnutrition, immunosuppressive diseases like AIDS. So, saying this, I thank you.